Hi everyone. My name's Laura. I work on local ambassador meetups for Teach First in our networks team. And I'm joined today by Teach First ambassador Ves. Ves was part of our 2016 cohort. And we actually spoke this time last year when I was doing some ambassador insight calls. And when we were told that we were putting together some inspirational ambassador stories to mark the 20th anniversary year of Teach First, I immediately thought back to our conversation, Ves, because I really found your achievement so fascinating. So thank you for joining me today. I've got some questions to ask you today, but do you want to start by introducing yourself?
Sure. Hi, Laura. It's great to see you again. I'm not sure if I qualify as inspirational, but I'll do my best. Yeah, my name is Ves. I'm a 2016 ambassador. I'm currently the head of school at Seven Hills International School in Kampala in Uganda. It's a pleasure to talk to all of you today.
Amazing, thank you. So I just wanted to start by asking you to give us a bit of an overview of your career journey from being part of the Teach First training program in 2016 up to where you are now.
Brilliant. I started my career as a teacher through Teach First. I did 2 years of the leadership development program in the West Midlands at Linghall School in Coventry, which was an inner city school. Absolutely loved it. I stayed there for 4 years. I was promoted my second year to be a subject leader. And then after 4 years, I moved to Zambia, where I became a curriculum coordinator at the International School of Lusaka, and also served as examinations officer for 3 years. And just a few weeks ago, I joined Seven Hills as its new head teacher in Kampala.
Oh, amazing. Congratulations. So one thing I'd love to know is what inspires or motivates you to support the education of children in disadvantaged communities?
Brilliant. Well, I would say that from a very young age, being a teacher was a dream of mine, and that's because when I was growing up in Bulgaria during the 90s, life was pretty hard. I was raised by my nan and my grandma, who worked very, very hard to put food on the table. But things were tough. I remember we had to queue up sometimes to buy bread for 2 hours. So when you live in that kind of environment, in those conditions, dreaming about the future is pretty difficult. And the people who inspired me and helped me overcome these challenges, overcome my environment, were my teachers. So when I thought about what could I do to benefit the world, what impact can I make with my life, I couldn't think of anything else, because I felt that my teachers had the most powerful influence on me. Right now at school, outside the gate, there's a sign, and I'm looking at it just now through the window, that says education is the most powerful tool to change the world. And I truly believe that. One of my primary teachers, she was called Miss Tanya. I'll never forget this, because this philosophy of life still sticks with me, still resonates within me today. She used to ask us, what do you want to do? What is your mission in life? And when you're 8, 9 years old, you kind of think wide-eyed, well, what can I do? I'm a little boy. And her way of looking at that was actually quite simple. She used to say to us, well, finding your mission in life is actually very simple. You look at the people around you, you look at the people that are closest to you, and you think, who needs you the most? And that's your mission. And when you're done with that, you draw a bigger circle. You look at the people in your community, and you ask the same question: who needs you the most? So then that's your mission. And when you're done with that, you draw an even bigger circle. You think about the entire world, perhaps, and you ask the question: who needs you the most? And then that becomes your mission. So that's how I live my life. That's what I've tried to do, and I felt that the way that I can make the biggest difference, what my mission in life is to be a teacher and help children. A teacher, I think, can help. One can change one life, but also a teacher has the capacity to change the world. And that's what's special about our profession.
Amazing. That's so beautifully put. Thank you, Bez. So how did you actually get into this area of work, and how are you making a difference at the moment? So yeah, just tell us a little bit about your specialist sector.
Well, that's a very long story. So my journey is a bit unusual because I started Teach First program, and I worked in inner city schools for some time in the UK, and then I decided a few years back to make a big jump and move to Africa, move to Zambia, where I worked at the International School of Lusaka. And primarily, I think at the time I was kind of ready for a new adventure, for something new. For something different. The challenges that we face here on the continent and in various different countries, I've worked now in 2 countries, in Zambia and in Uganda, are very different than schools in the UK. Whether they're private or state sector, we worry about things like, is there going to be power today? Is there going to be water today? And if there's not, we continue. We don't stop. School doesn't close down. We have to figure out how to solve some of these basic problems. But ultimately, I think what was really special for me and why I joined the international sector was because I truly believe that education is the most powerful tool to change the world. And so we owe it to ourselves and to children to think about how we can prepare them for the challenges of the 21st century. And in international schools, in the 2 schools that I worked at here, I found there's a lot of freedom, room to experiment, to innovate, to try new things. And that's been very empowering for me as a professional. When you ask the question, well, how are you making a difference? That's a big question, that we ask ourselves all the time. How am I making a difference? And what I'll say about Seven Hills, which is the school I head right now, is that we're a school that is focused on exactly that mission. How are we preparing our children for the challenges of the 21st century in a world which is going to be more competitive? It's going to be more insecure. It's gonna propose far deeper and more intense challenges and changes for young people. I think the OECD published a statistic some couple of years back, which said that in 10 years' time, 40% of the jobs on the market are going to be gone. Right? They're going to be replaced by new jobs. And that's a pretty scary statistic, isn't it? That means that children that are now in year 7, by the time they graduate from university, they're going to be looking at a world that's completely different from our own right now. So how are we actually preparing children right now for those challenges, those unknowns? And this is what my focus is. This is what my team's focus is right now. How do we build leadership skills? How do we build entrepreneurship skills? How do we build communication and research skills? How do we ensure that our kids are going to be adaptable, are going to be resilient, are going to be real global citizens, are going to make an impact on the world when they leave education? So that's I guess one of the biggest questions that we ask ourselves. On another level, I think a lot of people sometimes think, private schools, international schools, they're a refuge for the rich and the powerful. So what difference could they make? But actually, what the 2 schools that I've worked at, the reason why I've chosen to be part of that team and that particular school was because I've been so inspired by the amazing local impact that both ISL and Seven Hills have had on the community here. If I were to put an ISL hat with the logo and stroll around Lusaka and go into any shop or NGO or business or organization, I guess every second place I walk into, someone would say, "Oh, you know what? I went to ISL. I'm an alumni. I'm a graduate." And that's something very powerful about ISL, that we were an international school with an African heart. And the kids that went there, they came back and they became doctors and engineers, entrepreneurs, and they helped build up the country in the last 20 years. And this is something that I want for Seven Hills in Uganda. Next year is going to be our first graduating class who are going to go out to university. And it's so important for me that here at school, we're building in students not just a love for learning, but a love for Uganda, and an appreciation for the local community, an appreciation for what Africa has to offer. Because this is an amazing continent, it's an amazing country, it's an amazing community. I would love for our kids to go to university, maybe they go abroad, but then come back and contribute here, build businesses here, become engineers, become doctors, become lawyers, become civil servants, be the next leaders of this country. That's very powerful for me. And it's not a pipe dream. I've seen it happen. And this is what I want to achieve here in my time as head teacher.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ves. That's so amazing. It sounds like you're doing really, really great work out there. So you kind of answered this a little bit in the previous question, but just if there's anything you wanted to add to it. But just I wanted to know if you can tell us how your international schools work closely with its community to make the school a success, and yeah, why people should continue to support their communities.
It's a brilliant question, and right now what I could say Seven Hills is doing is it's a school that reaches out to the community. We have a number of community service projects where we work with partner schools and institutions. We have a very creative curriculum in middle school called the IMYC. It stands for the International Middle Years Curriculum, which requires students to not just think about the individual subjects, right, but think about how they can link concepts. How can they apply their learning in a real world environment? And that's why when our students learn about the laws of physics, or they learn about a biology concept, they don't just stop there, but they think about, okay, well, how can I use that knowledge to make an impact? Our students have been involved in building boats made of recycled materials. They fundraised for charity projects, making products, starting up mini NGOs and businesses to raise funds. They've gone and become ambassadors for their communities, speaking for Uganda on international forums, which has been amazing to see. This is something that I cherish and I want to develop as the school grows, and it certainly makes a difference both outside of school, but for the school itself. I've always believed that schools are not just a bunch of buildings with students and teachers inside them. They're intrinsic to the fabric of society and within the community. So it's very important for us as a school that we're not just self-contained, but we contribute outside of our walls. We reach out and find ways that we can not just communicate, but contribute and make a positive impact to the community.
Fantastic, thanks, Ves. Could you now just share an example or two of how you're making an impact in your school to end educational inequality, and how does it make you feel to make that difference?
It's a very complicated question. I guess what's important for me is I'm very passionate about innovation in education, and how we are preparing young people for the challenges of the 21st century. So some of the things I've worked on in the past few years, and some things I'm currently working on, are about how we build leadership skills, how we build communication skills, how we build service learning, how do we get children to think about making an impact and becoming true global citizens. And those are very hard questions. A couple of years back, I initiated with a few friends of mine a working group around creating a global leadership diploma, which connected schools from India, from the UK, and at the time I was working in Zambia. And really what that working group is about is really thinking, how can we build leadership skills within our curriculum? Nowadays at schools, we have student council, we have maybe some sports ambassadors, we have those kind of trivial roles that we give to children, but are we actually helping them build real management and leadership skills? I don't think so. And I think that's one of the most essential things that any young person will need when they start a career, when they end up leading a team, or looking at job prospects. So it's important to start thinking about right now in year 7, in year 8, how do we actually support them in that? What opportunities are we providing, and how is that a real cohesive part of our curriculum? Something that's been very important for me as well is community service, and that community impact that every school needs to make. So right now, what I'm working on with colleagues is building a whole school community service program that looks in tying the UN development goals and thinking about really as a young person, as a 12-year-old, as a 15-year-old, how can I make a difference? How can I be empowered to really change somebody's life? And I think that that's possible. I used to lead the student council at ISL a few years back. And it was a job I never actually wanted to take on. There was no member of staff at the time. Everybody was busy, so I said, okay, I'll do it. And I thought, oh, I'll have to babysit these children, tell them what to do and organize things for them. And I was just awestruck how incredibly organized and passionate the kids who were on this council were. They ended up fundraising enough money to save a conservation charity, pay the salaries of that charity during COVID for a whole year, basically ensuring that a number of endangered animals in Kafue National Park don't get slaughtered that year. And that's incredible when you think about it. That's young people through a couple of bake sales, making a real difference to the world, to the environment in that particular instance. So this is something that I want for children at Seven Hills. I want them to really be able to make a real impact on the community here, but also on the wider world. And I found in my experience that really it's not about nudging kids. It's not about doing it for them. It's about giving them the platform, giving them the opportunity, and letting them shine. I think people are often surprised how many incredible ideas young people have, and if given the chance, if given the tools and the resources, how far they can actually go to make a difference. Another thing that I'm really passionate about is building entrepreneurship skills. A couple of years back, I started the first in Zambia entrepreneurship program for high school, and this is something that I'm introducing here at Seven Hills, which again we will be the first school in Uganda to do that, which is incredible, and I'm very proud of that. But when I first started thinking along those lines and building a program like that, a student came and told me, you know what, sir, and I'll never forget this because it was a very powerful moment. All these years, I thought that school was about learning how to work for other people, and for the first time, I've learned that actually I can work for myself. That's very powerful as a statement, and that's something that stuck with me for some time. And it's true in the curriculum that we teach, in the way school is structured nowadays. That's what we do. We don't really give opportunities for young people to think about, well, how can they innovate? How can they invent a product? How can they invent a service? How can they solve a problem, right, in their community? And actually giving them the opportunity and the resources to do that is incredibly empowering.
Wow, thank you, Ves. It's so wonderful to hear how passionate you are about everything. It sounds like your school and the kids there are doing just amazing things. So as you know, we're heading into our 20th anniversary year. We've got now over 16,000 ambassadors, which is incredible. So I just wanted to know, what does being part of the ambassador community mean to you? And have you benefited or supported others within it?
You know what? That's a very emotional question for me, and I hope I don't cry by the end of this one. But when I started the program with Teach First in 2016, I went to this big hall where all of the newbies were gathering, and the coordinator at the time, she said this sort of big number. They're now 10,000 of us. We've trained 10,000 teachers. Isn't that incredible? There's 10,000 teachers that are out there making a difference, making an impact. And at the time, I thought to myself, "Wow, that I'm part of that now. And that's a really huge number." I don't know how many thousands there have been since. I don't know. I think the Teachverse is growing stronger every year. But it's been incredible to be part of the movement, to have benefited from the program. I feel incredibly privileged to have done the training, the leadership development training, to have qualified as a teacher. I think I was one of the first cohorts to go through the MPQs that were introduced as well at the time for the first time. And that made an enormous impact on me as a young leader. It gave me incredible opportunities to then build my own career, but also widen my impact and widen my scope. I think one of the most powerful aspects of the Teachverse network is its mission. It's what brings us all together. And it doesn't matter if you're an international school, if you're working in London, if you're working in Scotland, or if you're working in another Teachverse country through the Teach for All umbrella. I think what keeps us all together, whether we know each other or not, is that vision, is that passion for education, is that belief that education is the most powerful tool to change the world. It's what brought me here in Uganda, in Kampala. When I was looking at opportunities, and I came across this school, I spoke to the founders, I spoke to the board, I spoke to the kids, and I could see that same passion, that same vision for education that got me into teaching, that got me into Teachverse present here. The people who founded Seven Hills were just a bunch of parents that were not happy with the quality of education, and they were brave enough to start their own school, and that's pretty amazing. It's the same, I think, bravery and ambition that people who started Teachverse had about education and teaching in the UK or any other part of the world. And it's that passion for education that I think is that silver thread that unites us all together. None of my colleagues have heard of Teachverse. None of my colleagues have been through the program, but I see that same vision, that same mission, right? Those same values that I cherish, that are within the Teachverse, that are part of the Teachverse family, and that's something very special. So I feel incredibly privileged to have benefited from all of the expertise, the training, the advice, formal and informal. I keep in touch with a lot of my friends. I've mentored a number of people who've stayed within teaching, and I hope in the future to have more opportunities to contribute, to give back to that movement, to that community. Something that I'm really looking forward to is building stronger relations, stronger ties between our school and schools in the UK, Teachverse. Sometimes Africa feels like a pretty lonely place when you're an expat, because those networks seem quite distant. But I've been very grateful and privileged again to have worked with individuals within the movement, where we've collaborated on a number of projects, and I hope to widen that scope, to build stronger relations. I think there's a lot that our school can learn from the UK, from Teachverse. I think there's also a number of things that we can contribute. There's a number of things that we can offer as well, from our vision to our projects and how we think about educational innovation. There are very exciting conversations happening at the moment in the educational world, and I always welcome anybody who wants to be part of that conversation.
Thanks, Ves. And it's so beautiful to hear you still talking so passionately about the vision and things, you know, so long after you've finished the program, and it sounds like you've taken that with you, you know, so yeah, really fantastic. Okay, so we're on to the final question. So as obviously we've mentioned before, we're marking 20 years since the first cohort began the Summer Institute at Teach First. So what does 20 years of Teach First mean to you?
Oh gosh, 20 years is a long time, isn't it? I guess on the one hand, it's a testament, isn't it, to the enormous strength, value, and impact that Teach First has made to education in the past 20 years, and I think it's grown from strength to strength. I think there were times when I was a participant, when I just started the program, you know, when you're a new teacher with no experience and you're thrown into the classroom, there were a few times where I thought to myself, you know, what have I done? You know, what did I get myself into? You know, and each time I thought I faltered, I've made a mistake, or I've felt like I'm not successful. There's been somebody to pick me up. There's been somebody to say, you know what, you're doing a good job. There's been somebody with that relentless positivity, optimism about the future, about what we're doing. That's been able to turn what we used to call it valleys of death and hills of happiness. That was a big part of our training. So when you're when you're in the valley of death, then there's somebody that can turn that into a hill of happiness. Perhaps sounds very cheesy, I know, but it's true though, and I think that's one of the remarkable things about Teach First as an organization, as a training program, that it is so supportive. It is so interested in helping teachers succeed, not just through the development program, but in staying in education, in becoming lifelong teachers. I was the first teacher at my school from Teach First to actually stay beyond the 2 years. I'm very proud of that, and I like to think that it was a bit of a watershed moment, because most teachers after me also stayed. Most of the trainees, Teach First trainees, also stayed after me, because they saw the impact that they were making. They saw the value in actually serving in the school, and that's remarkable. That's remarkable. I think few training programs, I think, with regard to teaching, can say that. So that's something very special, I think, about Teach First. The other thing, I guess, is, I mean, 20 years is a lot when you look back, but it's also more daunting when you look forward. You know, what are the next 20 years going to be like? And I think that's also something that perhaps as a community we need to reflect. You know, the world is changing so fast. The demands on teachers and education are becoming bigger and bigger. You know, so how are we adapting? What is the next 20 years of education going to be like? What do we need to do as a movement, as an organization, to continue making a positive impact? But what I'm sure about is that we will have those discussions, we will have those conversations, and we will continue to do a good job, because I've never met a group of people that are more passionate, more resilient, more adaptable, more proactive, and perhaps more visionary than Teach Firsters. That I can say for sure.
Amazing, thanks, Ves. And it's so interesting that you just talked there about looking back at what we've achieved, but also looking forward as well. That's basically the whole theme of our Great Ambassador Gathering in July. There's going to be obviously looking back on what we have achieved, but there is going to be a big section on looking forward, having those conversations, and, you know, can we end educational inequality in our lifetime, and how do we do that? So yeah, it's just interesting that you just said that, because that is definitely the conversations that we want to be having as an ambassador community. So yeah, Fantastic. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I know everyone will really enjoy hearing your story as much as I have. In terms of if you want to get in touch with Ves or with myself, I'm working on a bunch of different networks at the moment. One of those being the International Network. So if you want to get involved in the International Network and talk to Ves and talk to myself about that, please contact me on TF Meetups at teachfirst.org.uk, and I'm sure that will be put into the description below. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with us tonight?
I guess I just wanted to say a massive thank you from myself for this incredible opportunity to talk a little bit about my story, but also talk about my school. When I got the invitation, I was honestly very honored and very humbled, because I thought, gosh, why do they want to speak to me, of all people? I went back to think, my first head teacher at Ling Hall, where I started as a teacher, Paul Green, he's still there. He'd been a head there for 20, 30 years in the same school, in an inner city school, where the kids are the same, the problems are the same. He was one of those hero heads that never gave up, and why aren't you talking to him? Like, you should be interviewing him, because there's very few people like that have that commitment and vision and passion, and they're so dedicated. But it's people like that have inspired me throughout my career. I've been very lucky to have worked with incredible colleagues, much more inspirational, much more dedicated than myself. So hence, on a personal level, thank you, I guess, for the recognition. On a professional level, it's been so wonderful to be able to speak about my own school, Seven Hills. We're a young school, a recent startup project in its 6th year now. We're still growing, we're still building things, and it's been wonderful to be able to talk about that journey and our mission and what we're about. When I interview leaders for leadership positions at schools, I often ask them something along the lines of, okay, you want to work in an international school, it's the cream of the profession. Usually that's how it's perceived. So international schools must be very great, right? So it must be really the best schools that you want to be part of that. Great, okay. So can you give me an example of an international school that has changed education in the last 10 years? And usually it's like this, right? Silence, complete silence. But there are schools that have changed education. When you think about the Green School in Bali, when you think about the African Leadership Academy in South Africa, those are schools that have changed the conversation about education, about what education could be. What does it really mean for children to be true learners, global citizens? How are we preparing children for the future? Those are schools that have looked outside the box. They've been innovators, and I truly believe that Seven Hills is a school that has the potential to be one of those game changers. That is a school that can change education in Uganda and perhaps in the world. So I'm incredibly thankful that I've been able to share our story and what we're about. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Ves, and don't sell yourself short. I think it's beautiful to hear you talking about lots of other people, but listening to you today, yeah, your story is very inspirational as well. But yeah, I just want to say a massive thank you, Ves. It was so lovely speaking to you, just as I remembered from last time we spoke.
It was brilliant. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Laura. It was great to speak to you again.